A recession is when the GDP is falling and is typically described as a decline lasting for 2 or more consecutive quarters. Recessions are caused by more than just weak economic growth. Numerous other traits, such as widespread job losses, a shortage of open positions, and increasing government relief, are frequently present alongside them. With that in mind, if you're interested in learning more about recession, its causes, and how to prepare for it, then this video is for you. Hello 101 community, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to tell you everything you need to know about the recession. Before we begin, if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to never miss any updates. What is a recession? A significant, pervasive, and protracted decline in economic activity is referred to as a recession. A common rule of thumb is that a recession is defined as a declining 2 consecutive quarters of a country's gross domestic product. It is because recessions frequently last 6 months or more. Economists define a recession contraction as beginning at the peak of the expansion that came before it and ending at the lowest point of the subsequent downturn. Economists share this definition at the National Bureau of Economic Research, NBER, which dates U.S. business cycles. Understanding recession. Since the Industrial Revolution, most nations have seen economic expansion, except for periodic contractions. Recessions are the relatively brief corrective stage of the business cycle. They frequently deal with the economic imbalances brought on by the expansion that came before them, paving the way for growth to pick up again. The International Monetary Fund estimates that between 1960 and 2007, 122 recessions impacting 21 advanced economies occurred nearly 10% of the time. Recessions produce decreases in economic output and employment that can spiral out of control because they constitute an abrupt reversal of the growing trend that is generally prevalent. For instance, the layoffs brought on by less consumer demand affected the income and spending of the recently unemployed, further weakening demand. The wealth effect can also be reversed by the stock market bear markets that occasionally follow recessions, reducing consumption based on rising asset values and rising net worth. Small businesses would struggle to expand if lenders stopped lending, and some would even go out of business. Governments worldwide have counter-cyclical fiscal and monetary measures since the Great Depression to ensure recessions don't worsen and harm their long-term economic prospects. Some of these stabilizers work automatically, such as increased unemployment insurance spending, which partially makes up for lost wages for laid-off workers. Others, such as interest rate reductions intended to support investment and employment, call for a central bank's approval, such as the Federal Reserve in the United States. What causes the recession? Number 1. Loss of confidence in the investment. Consumers cease buying and switch to a protective stance when their confidence is low. When a large enough group moves towards the exit, panic sets in. Businesses post fewer job openings, and the economy creates fewer jobs. Slow retail sales. Due to manufacturers' reductions in response to declining orders, the unemployment rate increases. To regain confidence, both the federal government and the central bank must act. Number 2. Very high interest rates. When interest rates increase, it reduces the amount of money available for investing or spending. The Federal Reserve frequently increased interest rates to preserve the dollar's value. For instance, it did so to combat the late 1970s stagflation, which contributed to the 1980 recession. Number 3. Crash of the stock market. The following bear market can be caused by an abrupt decline in investor confidence, which will drain money from businesses. Number 4. Declining home sales and prices. When homeowners lose equity and cannot obtain second mortgages, they may be obliged to reduce spending. This was the primary catalyst for the Great Recession of 2008 to begin. Banks eventually suffered losses on complex investments founded on falling property values. Number 5. A slowdown in manufacturing orders. A decrease in manufacturing orders is one indicator of a coming recession. Durable goods orders started to decline in October 2006, well before the recession of 2008 started. If you liked the video so far, press the like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to develop yourself financially and want to take your future into your own hands, check the links in the video description. The 2008 recession's root causes. The subprime mortgage crisis of 2006, when banks made derivative mortgage investments, marked the Great Recession's start. The housing bubble was mostly caused by low interest rates in 2004 and 2005, and the expectation that home prices would grow indefinitely. With interest-only loans, many buyers bought homes they couldn't afford. When the housing bubble broke, subprime borrowers began making defaults while the Fed hiked interest rates. The banks, hedge funds, and insurance companies holding such mortgage investments at that point were worthless. In 2008, when those banks were denied a bailout, the stock market plummeted, and the Dow experienced one of its biggest declines. How the stock market performed during the recession. Over time, long-term investors who invested during a recession have done fairly well. You might be surprised at the long-term results, even if investors' timing wasn't perfect. By looking at data from 3 recent recessions before the COVID-19 pandemic, the Great Recession from 2007 to 2009, the recession in 2001 caused by the dot-com crash, and the 9/11 attacks, and the 1990-91 recession that followed a protracted economic expansion in the 1980s. You'll probably do very well over the long run if you invest during a recession when the market is at its lowest point. But investors need to understand that trying to time the market is rarely a successful endeavor. You cannot predict when the market will bottom with a crystal ball. In other words, you won't invest at the ideal moment. But you're not required to. Even if you had bought an S&P 500 index fund at the absolute worst time, at the height of the market, just before the financial crisis in 2007, you would have earned an 8.4% annualized return over the subsequent 13 years. But before the 1990 to 1991 recession, if you'd purchased at the peak, you would have earned an annualized return of 9.8% over the next 30 years. Let me simplify it for you with an example. If you'd invested $10,000 in a normal S&P 500 index fund during the worst possible time, during the 1990-91 recession, your investment would still be worth more than $150,000 today, providing dividends were reinvested along the way. What to invest in during a recession? How you invest during a recession can be just as crucial as what you invest in. Stocks may be volatile during recessions, as anyone who traded the 2008-2009 financial crisis will attest to. Invest gradually rather than trying to time the market. Dollar cost averaging is the term used to describe the practice of investing equal amounts of money at regular intervals rather than all at once. In this manner, you can profit and purchase more if prices continue to drop. Additionally, if prices start to rise, you'll wind up purchasing more shares while they're still at lower costs rather than fewer shares when your preferred stocks began to increase in price. How to prepare for a recession? Reduce your expenses. Start examining where you may reduce your spending. Consider where you want your budget to be in both the best and the worst case scenarios. Start examining your enjoyable spending and start looking for methods to cut them. Bulk up your emergency fund. Most investment experts advise having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in savings. Depending on your particular situation, it might be worthwhile to review it. For instance, more than 6 months can make sense in this setting, especially if you believe you might have future employment difficulties. It's crucial not to become anxious about achieving that goal, though. Pay off your credit card debt right away. Anyone with a credit card should prioritize paying off their bills as soon as possible. Now, when a recession may be on the horizon and interest rates are rising quickly, this is even more crucial. Taking out a low-interest personal loan or applying for a credit card with a balance transfer are two options for dealing with debt. If you transfer high-interest debt to a credit card with a 0% APR, you can get out of debt much more quickly. Try to keep track of your financial status. Even though a recession may be challenging, the greatest thing you can do is start proactively preparing for it now. You can rely on Equifax for trustworthy information on important subjects to help you manage your money during these trying times. Financial literacy is crucial now more than ever, so you can feel confident about your financial situation regardless of obstacles. That's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon so you'll be notified of every update. Also, don't forget to check the links in the video description. And while you're here, click to watch one of these 2 videos appearing on your screen right now. I will see you there. Take care and stay tuned.